So today I'm going to talk about why most self-help books aren't really that helpful. You might be thinking, whoa, 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 your whole brand, your whole page is all about self-help books. So how dare you? Before you get all Greta Thunberg on me, just hear me out. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about reading these self-help books is if you come across the right one, all of a sudden your life is going to become magical. You're going to instantly become successful. You're going to become happy. You're going to become stunningly handsome. But that's just not the case. And as someone who spends most of my free time reading these self-help type books, I think it's pretty clear that I need help. But really over the past decade, we've seen a significant spike in not only the amount of self-help books that are being purchased, but the amount of self-help books that are being created, right? I think publishers and authors can clearly see that the popularity of these self-help books has gone up significantly. It's not because people think that they work, it's because deep down people are all pretty messed up. And I think it's just this desire to be less of a dirtbag that drives a lot of us to self-help. But after several years of reading many of these self-help books, I finally asked myself the question, if these self-help books actually worked, why do I keep reading them? More importantly, why is my life still a shit show? So today I'm going to share 3 biggest myths about reading self-help books and 3 simple tips on how you can deal with them. So the first myth on this list is that more self-help books you read, the happier and more successful that you'll be. So here's the thing, most of these self-help books, really, they're not that good, right? They're poorly written and a lot of them say the same things. Be consistent with your habits, set quality goals, think good thoughts, stop eating so much Chipotle. Like how many times have you come across one of these self-help books only to get to the end and you find yourself saying, yeah, no shit. Unfortunately, there are a lot of authors out there who use the publication of a self-help book almost like a branding ploy. You write a self-help book, you go on a press speaking tour, all of a sudden you can charge exorbitant consulting fees and voila, we've got a new self-help guru. Yay. But the reality is that most of these self-help books, they're really just not that helpful. Really what you're doing is you're taking an idea that could have been explained in a blog post or a 3.5-minute YouTube video, and all of a sudden you're trying to extrapolate that in a 350-page farce. And no, I'm definitely not talking about Start With Why. All right, myth number 2 is that reading these self-help books will make you smarter. But bro, Elon Musk learned how to build rockets from reading books, so why can't I? First of all, Brian, you have the IQ of a potato. So there's a huge difference between familiarity and comprehension. Like just because you read a book about a topic doesn't mean that you actually understand that topic. Take it from me. I've read so many books on decision making and problem solving, and it still takes me 4 minutes to order off the McDonald's dollar menu. So learning something new obviously takes a lot of time and focused effort, and reading only accounts for a small portion of that. So just because you read a bunch of books on a specific topic, sorry, it doesn't make you an actual expert on that topic. Wait, why are you looking at me? And myth number 3 is that reading self-help books is always a great use of your time. So I've always been a huge advocate of reading all day, every day. Like it's going to be a great use of your time. It's like exercise. There's never a bad time to do it. But over the past year or so, I've really started to question if this statement is actually true. Because just like any other activity, reading takes time, and there's an opportunity cost to how you spend that time. Like if you are spending literally hours a day reading books on productivity, it's a tad ironic, isn't it? And at the end of the day, reading too many books is just another form of procrastination. Like you're going to improve your writing skills right after you read another writing book, or you're going to finally start that business only after you read a couple more business books, you know, so you're really ready. So the thing is, you're going to continuously find ways to put off the doing part, and you're going to hide behind the guise of reading self-help books because you think it's a way of helping, when in fact you're actually taking time away from the doing part. And listen, there's rarely anything that's specific in a book that's going to trump the experience that you get from actually doing. All right, so here's the thing. Now that you're aware of these 3 specific myths, there are actually simple tips on how you can overcome them during your reading journey. So tip number 1 is to be more selective about what you read. More importantly, constantly question what the author is telling you. Yeah, I know that we're all super enamored with every book that has the word fuck in the title. Ooh. So edgy. But that doesn't mean that it's good. So just have the underlying understanding that most of these self-help books really aren't going to be that good. So do yourself a favor and take everything that you get from these books with a grain of salt. Tip number 2 is to focus more on the comprehension and less on the numbers. So it's no surprise that we all like talking about how many books that we've read. Like how could we actually signal to other people how intelligent that we are without actually telling them how many books that we read each year. But seriously, if we try to remember 2 or 3 things from the book that we read last month, how many of us are going to end up sounding like that long neck kid? So what's the point of reading all these books if you don't actually remember anything from them? And this is why I'm so skeptical of the whole speed reading thing, because listen, I can barely remember the stuff that I read when I read normally. And I think the key here is to take an active approach when it comes to reading. So take notes, constantly question yourself, use the Feynman technique. There's a lot of recall methods in which you can actually reinforce the things that you're learning from the book without focusing too much on getting to the next book or checking off a tally of how many books that you read per month. And last but not least, tip number 3 is to make an action plan and make sure that there is one key takeaway from every book that you read. So the main purpose of these self-help books is to create some sort of positive change in your life. Obviously, this isn't going to happen on its own. And the easiest way to do that is just to make a simple plan. So here's an example. So in Ryan Holiday's Stillness is the Key, one of the chapters talks about the benefits of meditation and how purposely slowing down can have significant improvements on your overall well-being and reducing stress. So knowing that, one of your key takeaways could be simply meditating 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday during your lunch break. And this is just a simple example of how you can take one idea but making it tangible into your day-to-day life. So at the end of the day here, folks, the key here is take everything that you read in these self-help books with a grain of salt. Take the time and the effort to make sure that you're testing your understanding and the comprehension of the ideas, and try to implement at least one thing from each book that you read. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself reading less of these self-help books and finally getting your shit together.